The divine isn't trying to scare us. And there is nothing but love in the heart of the Creator. There is nothing but pure potential in our source.
Yes.
Pure, loving potential. And so when we are approaching a ceremony, again, from that perspective, then everything that happens is incredibly loving. And for me, I was so scared, but the medicine met me with such a nurture and showed me my strength without showing me anything scary the first time.
Welcome to Max Afterburner, powered by No Fallen Heroes. My name is Susan Buckley, and I'm here again with my beautiful friend, Teresa.
Hi.
And we are going to have a little discussion. Last time we kind of talked about her journey. We didn't really get fully finished with that, but we'll come back to that another time. But we really want to talk about why plant medicine now, and just a whole bunch of questions people might have, questions people have asked us as to why, if it's medicine, but it's not really a medicine that you would get at a pharmacy, how's it healing you? Just a bunch of questions that we've gotten from people that we want to kind of clear up and just dive into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That sounds amazing. Let's do it.
So let's start off with just what I said. Why plant medicine? Why now? It's been used for thousands and thousands of years in many different ceremonies in many different countries. Why is the U.S. just kind of waking up to it now? Why are we? Because it's the hot topic. You can't, throw a stick and not read an article about psilocybin or ibogaine, the Texas Ibogaine Initiative, which is amazing. But why now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that when we were pondering our conversation for today, and I wanted to really dive into the rabbit hole of how the FDA came to be for us, and how that organization has impacted what we call now the pharmaceutical industry. So I wanted to go down this rabbit hole of all of the cause and effects of where we've come from with medicine and with health and where we are today. But I think that the why that stands out to me the most right now, especially from a spiritual perspective, and it sounds really cliche, and that is that we're going through a mass awakening.
Yeah.
Right? And we have information being exchanged at the speed of light. And we have almost everybody on the planet who is able to communicate instantaneously and share information. So on a global level, our consciousness is going through this aha moment.
Yep.
And we're able to share information. And so I think that because of what the internet has done for us over the last 30 years, that has given us the power to learn and research. And people really, I think, just got tired of being perpetually sick, being told that this is going to work or it's not going to work, or take this medicine, it's not going to cure you, but it's going to make you a little more comfortable, but it's also going to cause all of these other horrible things to happen.
Right. Oh, and take this to counteract what the side effects of this are, and then you're on like 10 things for...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and none of it's actually curing you. And then you have the issue of mental health on top of it because of what that does, how that deteriorates your whole morale, having to live on those drugs and what they're doing to you on a chemical level. So I think because of the perfect storm that is happening right now globally, and that is we have this information potential, the exchange here. And so we're getting our hands on things that we didn't know, and we're empowering ourselves more.
Right.
And people are just really tired of the system not working for them. And so they're looking for answers. And it just so happens that I believe that collectively we are at this activation point where we are going through an awakening. So more and more people, because of the challenges that they've had in their health due to the broken system, they're going, I've got to find something else. I have to look elsewhere. And that's causing this whole domino effect of questions that are happening in the individual and then obviously on a collective level.
Yeah. And like you said, the FDA is a giant culprit as to why people were so sick and why these medicines are Schedule 1. Schedule 1, if you look at the definition of a Schedule 1 drug, it's no therapeutic use and high risk of addiction. Well, I can think of two things right off the top of my head that should be Schedule 1, alcohol and tobacco. High addiction, no therapeutic use. Then you look at psilocybin, ibogaine, even MDMA, cannabis, there's therapeutic. And you're not going to become addicted to ibogaine, that's for sure. Mushrooms, you're not addicted to it. You're not going to be, like on the streets like a crack addict, doing mushrooms. So, and especially the way we do, which we'll get into as well. Because the way that we do it is very intentional. So it's not going to be an addictive type of thing. So Schedule 1, and we were talking before we started about when did these become Scheduled 1 drugs? Well, during the 60s with the war against drugs, people were taking these things and feeling great. And
Starting to resist, didn't want to go to war, love peace, love your neighbor. And what's wrong with that? Well, when you're fighting a war in Vietnam, that's a huge problem. So I think it's just, the FDA really came in and protected themselves because it's as we all know, pharmaceuticals, huge industry, Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. What's even crazier is when you look into the criminal records of some of these large pharmaceutical beasts that are still in business, not only in business, but at the forefront of our most recent medical issues in 2020.
Yeah.
They stand to be the biggest income earners from the pandemic, but they also have recently settled in billions of dollars. And all it takes is a little bit of research. All of this information is online, but there's settlements from Johnson & Johnson.
Yes.
Settlements from Pfizer, criminal rulings against these companies, but they still make up over 50% of the money that goes to the FDA.
Right.
And I don't know what the percentage is of the media that's controlled by them, but it's high.
Right.
It's high.
Well, and they, you can't get on a social media platform without somebody going off about something. You know what I mean? So they're going to perpetuate everything that they possibly can,
Yeah.
So, and you had a good point about, we're not saying the FDA is terrible. We're not saying that the FDA is a bad organization. Like you were saying how the FDA started.
Right. So, in the beginning, which is not that long ago, I want to say early 1900s. Again, this is not my area of specialty. It's just been a rabbit hole that I recently was getting into. So, but the FDA is rather young in history. And in the beginning, they were responsible for keeping opium out of child's cough syrups and cocaine out of Coca-Cola. And they were mainly funded by taxpayers.
Right.
So that shifted somewhere, I think, around the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, like you were saying, all of the interests that were taking place in the 60s within the corruption of our government.
Yeah. And the government just threw away all the research that they were doing on MDMA and what it was doing for couples therapy and what it was doing for people's mental health. And then they just all of a sudden decided that was it. So,
well, that wouldn't be the first time that the information that could help us was thrown away.
Yeah.
It's totally a historical cycle.
Right.
Which is why I think when we say why now, also, why now when it comes to plant medicine? Why now with ceremonial medicine? Because that is something like, you and I are operating in that space because we see the value in the full package. The medicine is not just the psilocybin. The medicine is not just the ibogaine, or for me, I work with hape. The medicine is not just, it is you. It is nature. It is the elements. And what we have to get away from, if we really want to have this holistic healing, is this compartmentalized medicinal approach where it's just take one pill that targets one thing or take one plant that does one thing, but it's really about reconnecting to our divine selves through nature.
Right.
And, you know, I think that the earth is calling us into our awakening. I think there's some type of timer going off on a cellular level, which is why people are kind of, you know, what looks like this waking up.
Right.
Lights are going off. People are understanding things that they couldn't get before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's some type of cosmic timer that's going off that's calling us back into homeostasis as a collective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as within, so without. So here's our bodies. Our bodies are sick. We're struggling with disease. We're struggling with all these imbalances, especially in the West, but it's global.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form. And really, what do our bodies do? What do our bodies do when we're out of balance?
Right.
Right? Naturally, the body tries to bring us back into homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's always trying to do. So I believe the earth is kind of like that calibration for us right now going, you guys are way, 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 way off.
Right. What are you doing?
Come back, because we all really are interconnected.
Yes.
You know, everything is interconnected.
Yep. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like, because you were just talking about how we do it more ceremonial. So let's talk about the difference between ceremony and recreational, because there's people that almost every time I talk to somebody and I start their prep work and we start talking about the medicine and the journey and, you know, we kind of, now that we've started a church, we're using them as sacraments. You know, it's not really even medicine anymore. It's sacraments. It's medicine for your soul. And we're using them as these sacraments to get us back to a place where we're whole. And people will say, what if I have a bad trip? What if I don't like it? What if it's bad? Well, first of all, there's a lot of difference between recreational. I tell somebody, they'll be like, oh, I had a bad trip in high school. And I'm like, where were you? And they're like, well, I went to a nightclub.
Right.
Well, okay, duh. You know?
Yeah, you're wide open, because that's what the hallucinogenic medicine does. It completely opens you up. And when you set your intention as to where you're going to consciously go when you are open, then you're able to get to that part of your subconscious that's really dictating all of your subconscious behaviors. Mm-hmm. And ultimately the things that are happening in your body, because your cells are always listening to your thoughts. And so you can't see those thoughts. They're subconscious. They're hidden. The medicine opens up your ability to perceive. Mm-hmm. And when you set your intention and your setting, you're anchoring yourself into the experience in a very purposeful, meaningful way that's also supportive, because in ceremony, obviously you're guided, you're in usually a small group, even though, you know, private ceremonies are also a thing. But with what we're doing, you're in a small group setting. You've had time to really settle in. You've had time to connect with your intention, which we usually instruct people to bring your intention in one word. And a lot of times for people coming to ceremony for the first time, they'll say healing, or they'll say enlightenment. And so what's happening when you have this beautiful setting on the earth, because ceremony is, we're on the ground, connecting to the earth. So when you're having this experience, you've already cultivated what we call a container and a safe place. And so now the medicine gets to go to work on the mental surgery. Almost every time that I'm in ceremony, because when we facilitate, we're also on the medicine with you. Almost every time that I have facilitated ceremony or even been in my own ceremony on the receiving end, I hear the medicine saying, okay, it's time for surgery. It's time for surgery. Like they're pulling back layers. I say these little microorganism that I picture as mushrooms. They're pulling back layers, layers and layers and layers. And there's actually new neural pathways being wired in your brain so that you can start thinking in a whole new way. And that's what happens for most people when they're done with ceremony. They have a complete shift in the way they're able to perceive the world and themselves, which ultimately, again, because cells are always listening, that shift in perspection works as a catalyst for the internal healing, because the cells start listening to a more optimistic, more holistic version of this person's life. And your cells immediately start lining up with what your truth is. Whatever your truth is, your body is going to listen to.
Right.
And if you can't tap into the truth of I am worthy, I am loved, I am powerful, you can say it all day long, but if you're not experiencing it being mirrored back to you in your life, it's because there's a subconscious pattern. You can't see it.
Right.
You come to ceremony, you embrace this experience. Also, ceremony makes us get vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there's something to that.
Well, and I tell people it's, because they're the last questions about, what to expect. And everybody's is different, completely different. I can't really tell you what to expect. I can't promise you that you're going to see something that you want or something that is even completely traumatic to you is even going to come up. It might not even come up. But I noticed within myself, it gave me the opportunity to look at situations that I find difficult in a completely different light. Absolutely. So you might be looking at something that was a very traumatic incident for you, and you don't go into it with your ego and your stress and the anxiety of it. You can look at it, and then you can get a different perspective and then start to heal it that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the difference between the two of recreational and ceremonial are night and day. So not saying that you won't have a difficult journey. It's not going to be a bad trip, but somebody could have a difficult journey, but there's ways to get around that. Your breath work, you go back to your intention, you, take a minute to kind of meditate or, breathe through whatever it is you are, because the medicine gives you what you need, not what you want. You can go in there saying, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I want to feel this way when I'm done. And the medicine's going to go, nope, this is what you really need. And it might not be easy. So I never promise anybody that it's going to be sunshine and lollipops, and it might not be a lot of work, because that's what we're doing. We're doing work, right? We're working on ourselves, and we need to make changes. And sometimes that's tough.
I was going to say, choose your hard.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to the gym, you expect a certain amount of discomfort as your body adjusts to a new level of pressure.
Right.
And when you're approaching a new level of pressure and you're using your will to then tell your body what we're going to do, we're going to push this level, you expect a certain amount of discomfort after the process. And then what do we do when we feel that discomfort, usually after the gym? We're proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're like, man, I'm sore over here and over here. I know I targeted some muscles today. And that's not to say, that healing needs to be painful.
Right.
It just most often is, because we are essentially forced to rip Band-Aids off. Mm-hmm. If you have been on a prescription drug for any length of time, like I was prescribed Xanax 3 milligrams a day, 1 milligram 3 times a day. And before I knew the difficulties that can come with that drug, it really was like a relief, because I was in such distress with my hormones and my thyroid, and I was kind of a wreck. Mm-hmm. It helped. But when I realized, oh man, this is almost too good to be true.
Right.
And in due time, I said, I can't be controlled by any of this. Yeah. So I decided I was going to get off. But you know what? It was not easy. And at times it was a painful experience, because since I had been taking that drug, that Band-Aid, for 1.5 years, the process of taking it off was a stretch.
Right.
But absolutely worth it, because in the long run, like I said, I'm not in bondage to that. Through the process, I also learned how to bring myself back into balance naturally.
Right.
With the elements, with prayer, with, good living.
Yes.
And ceremony work.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, to the bad trip experience, we had a shaman in a ceremony one time that she was from Colombia. She was a lioness of a woman, I'll tell you what. Powerful woman. But when people before ceremony were asking questions like out of fear, she just put her foot down and said, you can't be ruled by that anymore. That's what's gotten you where you are. You're here to surrender to your healing.
Yes.
And when you approach ceremonial medicine, there's a humility that comes with it, and there's a surrendering that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in that surrender that even the experiences that feel bad, as we're calling it, which I don't really believe they feel bad.
Right.
Even in the experiences where we might be forced to face the things that we've not been willing to face, even though they torment us daily, we haven't been willing to face them. The medicine will assist us in facing those demons and slaying them as well.
Yeah.
And that may not be fun at first, but in a ceremonial setting, you're fully supported and you can feel strong because you know that you're not doing this alone and that you are in the safety net of people that are going to walk you through it and walk you home.
Right. And the energy that's in the room, it's all supportive of each other. When I did my first psilocybin journey, they said I laid on the mat and I just kept looking to the one side. And I realized once I didn't know I was physically looking to one side the whole time. And I remember doing that. And it was because it was something I didn't want to face. It was something I didn't want to go there. So I kept just kind of trying to be like, whatever, like, it's fine, let it go, whatever. But once I remembered my guide, my integration coach, she had said to me, what you resist will persist. So if you continue to resist something that's trying to come through, it's not going to really go away. You need to face it. So I finally looked at it, faced it. It wasn't even a big deal. And it went away in 3 seconds. I don't even remember what it was, to be honest with you. I don't even know what I was looking away from. I don't remember what I, in my head, was not wanting to go to. But once I was like, I remembered she said that, I was like, all right, fine. And I just surrendered to it, let go. And it went away and I just kept moving on along my way. And honestly, I don't even remember. It wasn't even like this big life-shattering, earth-moving event. Right.
Well, and that's a lot of people think that if they don't have any real memory of a major trauma in their life, they often think that, well, I'm not part of that study.
Right. I don't need that.
Right. But I always say, look at the fruit of the tree. And there are people whose trauma has served to become their power in life. Mm-hmm. There are people that are amazing doctors today because they experienced something so traumatic when they were a kid that they decided that they were going to turn into someone that saves people. And they were able to take that trauma and turn it into a power. But someone else may have experienced the same exact trauma, and because of the setting of their life and or lack of support or both, that person's trauma became their poison, right? So everyone experiences trauma. It has become a very cliche word because of the fact that the upload of information and societal movements over the last 30 years also has us all talking about our trauma more than ever before.
Right.
And somebody can live what seems to be a completely successful life by all the boxes that we've checked. But we know because of the mental health crisis, we know because of the health crisis, and how many doctors are struggling silently with their mental health.
Right.
Because of things that they have never really healed from because they turn their trauma into their superpower. But behind closed doors, how are their relationships? Behind closed doors, how is their mental health? How is their emotional health? And for some of them, how's their physical health? Right? How's their financial health?
Right.
So every other aspect of your being is affected by it. And only the individual knows to what extent, especially if their trauma isn't blaring on the outside with addiction and dysfunction.
Right.
Only the person knows.
Well, and we always say we never trauma shame somebody, because I know like Matt went through this after his first ibogaine thing where he was like, because we work with obviously a lot of veterans, and he's like talking to these guys and the stuff they've been through, and he's like, my scariest thing I ever did in the military was land on an aircraft carrier. He's like, I didn't see actual war. I didn't see like trauma to the extent that them, but you have to give yourself grace and understand that we're not trauma shaming anybody. Whatever you feel is trauma to you is trauma, right? So just because you didn't have the same shared experience as somebody else and you look at that and go, wow, I don't know how you survive that, doesn't mean that whatever you're surviving or getting through or trying to work through is not important.
A lot of people don't even remember their trauma. And
Right.
you can have a severe psychological impact. Of course, nature nurture, depending on how you're biologically predispositioned. And then also like if you didn't get breastfed, if somebody didn't pick you up out of the crib, I mean, you compounded experiences over time, not getting enough to eat over the course of your life. My grandmother told me stories of because there were so many children and not enough food to feed all the children that Papa would get to eat because he's the one that had to go to work. So compounded trauma over the course of time. It might have been a perfectly loving family and daddy's going to work and mama's staying home. But at the end of the day, those kids remembering that they didn't get to eat. And that is a lifetime compounded trauma. Right. And so a lot of people don't even remember. There are things that happen before 7 years old, before 4 years old that have greatly impacted somebody's perception and their brain function because when your brain is developing during that time. And so they could have, again, the fruit in their life, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, relational disorders, all the things, maybe not even physical.
Right.
Maybe they look great.
Yeah.
Maybe everything looks great on the front, but only they know. Again, these things can happen from a place of completely subconscious patterns over the course of time. Those are traumas. And like you were saying, in your ceremony, you don't even remember what that was. But obviously, there was something in there on such a deep level that you were kind of in this constant state of resistance to.
Yep.
But your experience proved that you can face those things and completely change the way your brain looks even at this point. But you didn't even know what it was. So that's important to note that we can't compare trauma and then rule ourselves out of this process.
Because we don't think that our trauma was grand enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's generational trauma too that we break in these ceremonies.
Absolutely.
What you look kind of like what you were just saying, your family, which might seem normal to you because you grew up in a normal family, but you had these little things where maybe your mom wasn't affectionate or maybe your dad just randomly didn't come home or whatever was normal to you. So it didn't really, you didn't realize how it affected you. And maybe that's what happened to your mom or your dad. And so it's generational. They bring it down. And then when you go through the ceremony, you can kind of go, wait, that didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Even though it was normal, quote unquote, to me. And you can heal those things. So trauma's trauma,
Absolutely. And you know what? You don't even need trauma.
Right.
And you don't need to be sick.
Right.
To appreciate ceremonial medicine.
Right. And just
because
feeling
like
better.
You said, it's also a sacrament. Right. So it serves as a medicine when we are not able to perceive our wholeness and therefore we feel sick in our bodies. But these medicines are also sacraments and teachers that help us to remember our union with nature, help us to stay in balance and in harmony with nature. So it's not always just for the sick. Matter of fact, it has become for the sick because restoring that union with nature has resulted in our physical healing.
Right.
It wasn't all about being sick. It was all about the sacrament first.
Right. Right.
The healing came after.
Yep. And that's, I was thinking how I forgot what I was going to say now. I had a whole good point. It just went.
It'll come back.
I'll come back to it.
It'll come back.
So have you had any challenging journeys or how did you work through them yourself? Like, and I feel like sometimes when the journeys are tough, we also tell everybody afterwards, there's a time period where you're going to feel great. You're going to come home. You're going to feel great. It's like the pink days, right? The pink cloud area where you're still kind of floating around like, this is so great. Look how pretty the trees
so
are.
clean.
Oh, everything's bright.
Yep.
And then the reality of life starts to hit you in about, 60 days, maybe 60, 90 days.
Yeah, or
and
less.
And you're just going to kind of start going, okay, the bills are still here. I still have my bad days, because it's not a magic pill. It's not a magic anything.
That's
and
right.
95% of your work is going to be after ceremony.
Because it's about reinforcing those neural pathways that have now been established, right? Because you talked about before, not in this podcast, but how these neural pathways are formed kind of like the Grand Canyon, where it's a repetitive thought going down that same exact path over and over, like getting up in the morning, going to work, getting your keys. Your body does that actually to preserve energy, so that it's a feature of our machine that is supposed to benefit us. But unfortunately, when we've been repeating thoughts and behaviors that work against us, the brain doesn't know the difference, and it continues to make those paths deeper and deeper and deeper, so that you don't have to think when you do them. And so when you go through ceremony and you have an experience where you've now created some new neural pathways, the real work comes in reinforcing those pathways over the course of time. So you now have the ability to see differently. Now you have to consciously choose to think differently over and over and over again, every single day, in a very almost robotic way. Choose it. That's why affirmations are so powerful when you actually have the unlocking of the perception, because just affirming yourself all the time, but having all of this stuff under there that's conflicting that affirmation is not as potent as when you can sync up that heart and mind coherence and really reinforce that new thought.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and our minds are strong, so they want to go back to what's easy.
Exactly.
So moving on to the new thoughts is not always easy. And, you know, I still, and I'm sure you and everybody is going to have a bad day, you know, and I read a little quote. It said, bad day, not bad life. You can't allow yourself to go back to where you were. So it's work. And, you know, people will come in and be like, oh, I listened to Matt's podcast and he just healed in one day and everything's great. Well, he did heal a lot of the things that were very traumatic that happened in his life, that were hard and that held him back. But he works every day. You have to work at it every single day to make sure that, you know, you get up, you have your bad day. Whatever, it's a bad day. Move on. You don't allow it to become a bad week and a bad month. And now you're back at where you started. So you don't want to be chasing the medicine. So integration, if we want to talk about that a little bit on how we help people with the integration. And I know you help with integration, you integrate people as well. So what are your tips for people after they do medicine? And you should be going to a place that offers some sort of integration.
Absolutely. You have to go into the ceremony with a plan. You know, pre-ceremony, during ceremony, and post-ceremony. You want to have a plan for your transformation and to get the most out of your experience. Some people come in though with curiosity. Let me just see what it's all about. And sometimes may get a radical transformation from that, and sometimes may not get much, because really the intention was curiosity. I just want to see what this is all about. But when you really take that intention and you create this transformational experience for yourself by taking responsibility for your pre-journey and your post-journey, and that really is key, taking responsibility. How are we establishing ourselves within accountability? Because again, even in this spiritual pool, eclectic spiritual pool that we have going on with social media spirituality and influencing and all these different ideas coming in, which I think is really cool. I like all the different ideas merging in one place. But with that, we do have an issue with accountability. We have an issue with credibility. We have an issue with people stepping into a space as spiritual leaders or spiritual leaders, and not having had any track record themselves. And so we want to make sure that we're connecting ourselves with people that in some way, shape, or form are also accountable, right? You kind of want to do your homework a little bit and make sure that the people that you're going to be growing with are really going in the same direction that you want to go, not just somebody that you saw on Instagram that looks like they have it together and you're going to now do coaching with them. You know, it's probably even better to get involved in some type of a community, because when you have more than one person, a little community, you know, you have accountability in that too. But I wanted to step back for a second and just touch on the whole bad experience thing. because I was expecting a bad experience on my very first shamanic ceremony. And I was scared because I have some pretty dark trauma that I don't need to be like, I know what it is. I didn't forget it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was definitely like, oh man, like this is going to be, I can just only imagine what's going to come up. But this was so incredibly beautiful and eye-opening for me because the divine isn't trying to scare us. And there is nothing but love in the heart of the creator. There is nothing but pure potential in our source.
Yes.
Pure loving potential. And so when we are approaching a ceremony again from that perspective, then everything that happens is incredibly loving. And for me, I was so scared, but the medicine met me with such a nurture and showed me my strength without showing me anything scary the first time. So then I went back into ceremony a couple months later, and I was just like, okay, well, I got this, you know? And again, I saw things in that ceremony that in my previous normal sober state of mind, whatever you want to call it, my normal state of being, I would have thought those things were scary. Like I saw symbols, I saw things that were very, very dark, and in my Christian days would have been called demonic. But they were things that were being shown to me to show me how ridiculous my fear was of them.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe, here I am looking at something that I would have thought was terrifying in my whole life, but I'm seeing it from this place of feeling supported. And so for me, I really do believe, because I went into ceremony having already been on a journey myself for quite a long time. I knew my spiritual authority. I knew that no matter what is being shown to me, this is coming from a loving space. I knew that. I'd never had a scary experience other than the feeling of I've got to let go.
Right.
That feels a little scary.
Yeah.
And I have not had anyone in ceremony not be able to find their bearings in a challenging moment. Yes, there are always people that have challenging moments. Always. We expect it to some degree.
Right.
But I have not ever seen anyone that hasn't come out on the other side of that with such incredible gratitude for the experience and healing.
Yeah.
And so we're there for it. We're there to support each other through it. And we are not afraid of it, especially when we're facilitating.
Yeah.
We are not afraid. We know the support of the love that's in this space with us. We know it, we rely on it, we depend on it. And again, that's what makes ceremony so powerful, is because there's a faith element to it. You can't take that out and expect the same results as far as I'm concerned.
No.
So it doesn't have to be, to touch on this real quick too, it doesn't have to be a specific religion. It's not about a religion. It is spiritual though.
Right.
And you can also use the term energy in place of spirit if that makes you more comfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm glad you bring this up, because I just recently had somebody reach out and they were a little concerned about, you know, they're very Christian. They believe in Jesus. They wanted to know if we were blessing our sacrament in the name of Jesus. And I was like, Matt, he's so good with words. I'm terrible. But he was really good. He just wrote, it was half joke, but kind of serious. He's like, you bring your own Buddha.
Period.
Like, do your own thing.
No, exactly.
I would never in a million years tell somebody, you have to be a Christian to do this, or that it's God, or that it's Jesus, or that it's Mother Earth, or that it's whatever. It's love, light, energy, God, source. You call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we're here to support it, because I personally choose to call it God. It's not God in a flowing robe with a big long beard sitting on a throne. Scary.
Yeah.
And like you said, the medicine's going to meet you where you're at.
Absolutely.
And so if you're like on your first journey when you were scared, it showed you all the stuff lovingly, whatever, and it was still loving the next time, but you understood the medicine. So it met you in a different place.
Yeah.
Where maybe it showed you stuff that was a little tougher, but it knew you could handle it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up about like the religion part of it, because we're not bringing religion into this. I mean, we just want people to heal we have our beliefs. We believe what we believe. I'm not going to foist my beliefs on somebody else. You can call it whatever you want.
I think we can agree that love is the religion and ceremony.
Yes.
Love is the religion.
Yes.
And most ceremonies today, the ones that I would say initiated through my first experiences in shamanic medicine, I was told, bring your faith and whatever it looks like. And for me at that time, I was still very much, I was at the beginning of my exploration with my deconstructing of my Christian beliefs at that time. So I did ask Jesus to take me on my journey.
Yeah.
And there were times where in that first journey that I felt afraid. I wasn't seeing anything, but I was feeling afraid. And I sat up and I looked for the moon wherever it was, and I just started quoting Psalms 23. Because even though I have learned a lot more since I started deconstructing my Christian beliefs, I still believed that there was this power in that scripture. And a lot of people do, actually. So again, bring what helps anchor you in your spirituality. And if you want to bless the sacraments in Jesus' name, nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares. The biggest problem, though, is, and I know because I was there, especially when I started going to yoga previous to shamanic experiences. When I started going to yoga and I got my Christian peers telling me, no, you're on a slippery slope to hell. I did realize through an exchange with certain people that there are just going to be people that have way too much fear around it, and they're not ready.
Right.
They're not ready. And when you're ready, your God will give you
it calls
the courage.
We say that all the time, when the medicine calls to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you make that decision to do a journey, even before you sit in ceremony, or even before the actual container is created and we get the group and we start working on intentions, once you make the decision, changes start happening in your life.
It's
and
magical.
So, I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, I think people it'll meet you when you're ready.
Yeah.
If you're ready. Some people will never be ready, which is fine.
Right.
Nobody's saying that this is the end all be all for everybody.
Yeah.
So, so I just think it's that's interesting.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very much so. It's time for us to come together and heal.
Yeah.
And that sounds very hippie of me. I own it.
Yeah.
I own it. When we look at how our bodies heal, also by forming groups.
Yeah.
And how we also get sick by the groups that are formed in our body.
Yep.
Right. And the other thing I was thinking of to that was that nothing in our body is ever really eradicated. One thing is dissolved into another, right? Nothing ever goes away. One thing is dissolved into another. Same thing with light and dark. The light doesn't disappear. It's absorbed into the dark. The dark doesn't disappear. It's absorbed into the light. So as long as we are coming together and healing together, then what's happening, our own darkness is being absorbed into the light. Sometimes we have to go dance around there for a little while to find our way to the light. And sometimes we have to learn to know the difference between what we're calling the sacred darkness, because there's something beautiful to the sacred darkness. It's the soil. That's where the seed goes to be germinated, right? There's a difference between what we call the sacred darkness and then what, like, for me in Christianity, darkness was associated with evil.
You're right.
But darkness is not in and of itself evil. And we all are comprised of both positive, negative energy, darkness, and light. But as we are moving ourselves collectively as a group into a healing, if you look at the sickness of the planet, which I think is really demonstrated in our systems as opposed to people, not going to focus on people, because as people, we are cells of the universe. We are cells of the earth. But it's our systems that have been constructed through our conscious creation or unconscious creation that we've been doing, that we have formed these pockets of disease in our societal systems that are feeding on the healthy cells, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to nourish the healthy cells.
Yes.
We're going to nourish the healthy cells and starve the system.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And when we come together in ceremony, that's our focus. We're coming together focusing on how we nourish one another, how we reconnect to the nourishment of our bodies, the elements, right? And that's really what the work is. The work is coming back together and collectively reintegrating the darkness into the light.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting when you talk about the energy, like we were talking about the energy in the room and the energy, how we heal each other and we're helping each other in the container. I didn't really have a lot, like people would say like, oh, I can feel your energy. And before I ever did any of this, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me, but all right. But like I said, in my first journey and even in other journeys that I've had, I could see the energy. And it was so enlightening to me to actually, I think I talked about this, I probably have a million times, but the girl next to me in my first journey, she was really struggling. She was not feeling well. She was all over the place, I guess. I mean, I didn't really realize, but my body knew that she was because I kept seeing white lights going over to her and seeing all these white lights going over to her from every person's bed. And the facilitator and the nurse, you could see all of us going to her and these white, and they were like shooting stars almost, like just going right to her and all the energy and support that we were giving her, not consciously, because we were on our own journey. We were doing our own thing. I was too busy looking away from someone I didn't want to see.
That's incredible.
But I could see that also. So there is energy that heals each other.
Yeah.
And that's where, you get into also the generational healing and you're just helping each other. We're just helping each other move through.
Helping each other move through. And I think that it's the most powerful thing that we can do, because if we think about it from the perspective of giving the good cells what they need, and you are one of those cells, right? The more that we view ourselves as a part of this collective immune system, the more focus we allow ourselves to put back on our own state of being, because we realize that it is, in fact, contagious, whether I am sick or I am healthy. It is going to impact the collective, which also means your family, your loved ones, when you are healing, and also when you are sick. We are always, as you saw, those lights automatically just transferring between us all of the time. So if we allow ourselves to really focus on our personal development journey, our healing journey, to the benefit of our loved ones and our communities. Because if we're healing, but it causes us to go further into a bubble, and we are now isolated, which people do all the time.
Right.
I'm healing. I can't be around any bad energy. No, you get to the point eventually where you know how to alchemize the energy.
Yeah.
You have developed yourself in such a way that you can walk into any space knowing how to protect yourself and knowing how to transmute.
Yeah.
But if we think we're healing and then we hide from every negative energy, then in fact, we're not being a part of the collective healing.
Right.
And so it really is at that point only an illusion.
And your healing at that point could be healing the person in the room with the bad energy.
Exactly. Exactly. So you go everywhere you go intentionally. Sometimes you get slimed. Sometimes you get caught off guard, and you then have developed hopefully a practice, or you learn the importance of developing a practice that when I began to feel that I'm not in the space where I can respond to life with character, integrity, and peace and love and joy, then I've got to get back to the place where I'm grounded. Whereas sometimes some people may come back for another ceremony to recalibrate. So like you said, you come to a ceremony, you kind of get those keys and you unlock this next door to your journey, and then the journey begins. Ceremony begins the minute you schedule it.
Right.
But it also really begins the minute that fire goes out.
Yeah.
And we go to life.
Yeah.
Back to life.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's really how is our personal development impacting our little micro worlds? How is it impacting our micro world, our families, and then our community and outward?
Right.
And that's the fruit. That's how we know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the results of our hard work are. And I think that it's good to get together sometimes too, because then we can see that everybody brings a little piece of something different to the table.
Right.
And even if your gifts and your talents aren't outwardly really expressed, energetically speaking, they're so powerful. When one person is coherent between their heart and their mind. And there's this really cool website you can go look at called heartmath.com. And they've actually done studies and research on how your energetic field impacts the field around you, and how when you bring people together that are intentionally bringing coherence between their heart and mind, it actually changes the energy. They've been able to measure this energy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're able to measure the energy that a group of people, the energetic influence that a group of people has when they come together and they are intention about heart, brain coherence. So that's really cool for people to go check out, to see the importance of your energy.
Yeah.
How important you being whole and healed is. And every single person is important. And I know a lot of times our veterans feel completely disconnected from society and a lack of importance. You know? And so I also love the mission for No Fallen Heroes to restore the person.
Yeah. Because they've sacrificed so much for us. And so
back
it's
to their life.
so great to give them back their life. Because, you know, Matt also, he has a lot of good little catchphrases. His other little catchphrase that's really good is the military does a really good job of teaching you how to do some really bad things to other people. They make you really good at that. And then when you get out, they're like, yep, well, good luck. They don't do a good job of putting you back in life.
Yeah.
So these medicines are an amazing tool to help anybody, but also our veterans. And it's honestly a blessing that we're able to help them and be a part of that healing for them, because it's so deserved.
Yes. Yeah. And it started with a couple of men that said, okay, let's see what this is about.
Yeah.
Right? Let's see what this is about. And it radically transformed their energy to the point that it's now expanding outward.
Yep.
And it's having that contagious impact on the people around them, and then around them and around them and around them.
Yeah.
So it's just so beautiful.
It's like a Ponzi scheme. You know, you come home from a journey and you're like, I want this to be better. I'm going to give this to everybody, and you just kind of it grows. Like you said, it's like, you want, like when I came home, I'm like, Matt and I were both like, how do we make this so everybody can do this? Like, how come everybody doesn't feel this great? So it's a beautiful thing to be able to be on the side that we're on.
Absolutely.
Where we still work. Like, it's not like we don't need to work. We're working still every single day on ourselves. Yeah.
Oh, work on ourselves.
Yourself.
Oh, yes.
But also it's a blessing to be able to help people through their work and their journeys. So.
Yeah. Really by being a beacon.
Yeah.
Just by being a beacon and by understanding your potential. I think when you understand your potential, then you're able to execute your intention, your conscious intention in a creative way, right?
Yeah.
When you guys knew that you had the potential to reach more people with this, but it came from being able to see yourself as having that potential. And so that's really what it boils down to, is that our ability to perceive our potential is restored. And it eventually becomes about not constantly working on ourselves, but once you come to a certain ability to kind of see life as a constant lesson and a constant opportunity to grow, not that I am this constant project that needs fixing,
right? Because
I'm great.
Yeah.
Just the way I am. And so are you.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Amazing. Life is amazing.
Right.
All the cycles are incredible. All of them. But everything about life is a teacher.
Right.
Everything that feels bad, everything that hurts, I should say, because not all hurt is bad. Everything that I feel is a teacher. Everything that I experience is a teacher. And once you know that your experience is always mirroring back your mindset, then the teachers really come out of the woodworks, right? That's when you really start to see, is today a bad day because everyone around me is pissing me off? Well, hello, when you know that the world around you is a mirror, you realize it's not them that's pissing you off. What are you upset with yourself about?
Right.
And you can take that into your meditation and say, what's coming up? What am I feeling? Why am I seeing this in people when it's really something that's going on with me?
Yes.
when your ability to become your own guide and your own teacher is really solidified because you've taken that time and that diligence to practice that, then your view on healing is not a matter of healing as much as it is a matter of constant growing.
Right. That's a better way to put it.
Constant growing.
Constant growing.
As a result of constantly growing, we heal too.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, what is there to learn now?
Right.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Just this constant, oh, that's so fun. Oh, I didn't see that puzzle piece there before. Oh, it all makes sense now.
Right.
And bringing it back to the simplicity of being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found all these crazy puzzle pieces just to bring me back to the simplicity of how beautiful it is to be in my body today and to have a beautiful friend like you to talk to, and how amazing the fruit tastes when you eat it before breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Just the simple pleasures of being alive.
Right. Yeah.
It's really what we're being brought back to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was amazing. And we are doing a retreat next weekend.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
I know.
I'm super excited. And we will definitely have another sit down soon.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
I never lack for words. You should ask the girl that I just drove home with for 4 hours the other day. We stayed at a hostel in the forest. Oh my gosh. And I said, well, you never have to worry about falling asleep on the road with me.
Yeah, that's like me too. I'm always, the other day, I don't know, I was on a rant. Matt's like, are you still talking? I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's fine. Anyway, well, thank you all for joining us. And thank you for driving down again.
Of course.
And we look forward to talking to you again. And we are closing out our episode of Max Afterburner.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.